The bridge of the Galactic Empire flagship Dominion's Edge was massive. Admiral Kale Vorix stood before the main viewing screen, watching stars pass by as his ship traveled through hyperspace. He was tall, with dark blue skin and 4 arms that marked him as a member of the Zephyrian race. The Zephyrians had been part of the Empire for over 3,000 years. "Admiral," called his communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission from an unknown vessel." Vorix turned his 4 eyes toward the officer. "Unknown? That is impossible. Our scanners cover this entire sector." "Sir, the ship appeared on our sensors only moments ago. It seems to have dropped out of hyperspace right next to us." This troubled Vorix. No ship should be able to get so close without being detected. The Empire's technology was the best in the galaxy. They had conquered 40,000 star systems because of their superior weapons and sensors. "Put the transmission on screen," Vorix ordered. The main display changed to show the interior of a small ship. 3 humans stood in what appeared to be a simple meeting room. The first was a man in a dark blue suit. He looked calm and professional. Behind him stood a woman in a military uniform with many medals on her chest. Next to her was a man in a different military uniform. The man in the suit stepped forward. "Admiral Vorix of the Galactic Empire. I am Ambassador Do-Yun Kim of Earth. These are General Minho Park and Admiral Yuna Lee of the Terran Defense Force. We request permission to come aboard your ship." Vorix was confused. Earth was listed in their databases as a primitive world. The humans there had barely developed basic space travel. Their technology was thousands of years behind the Empire's. How could they have found his ship? "Human," Vorix said, using his most commanding voice. "Your species has not been given permission to leave your home system. Return to Earth immediately." Do-Yun smiled. It was not a happy smile. "Admiral, we are not here to ask for permission. We are here to deliver a message to your government. It would be wise to listen." The arrogance of these creatures annoyed Vorix. Humans were nothing. The Empire had discovered their world only 50 years ago. The survey teams reported that Earth's people were still fighting wars with primitive weapons. They had no real space fleet. They were not even worth conquering. "You may deliver your message from your current position," Vorix said. "This message must be delivered to the High Council in person," Do-Yun replied. "We have traveled a very long way to speak with them." Vorix looked at his tactical officer. The alien shook his head, indicating that the human ship showed no weapons. It was small, perhaps 1/10 the size of a standard Empire scout vessel. "Very well," Vorix said. "You may dock with our ship, but be warned. Any aggressive action will result in your immediate destruction." "We understand," Do-Yun said. His smile never changed. 20 minutes later, the 3 humans walked onto the bridge of Dominion's Edge. Vorix was surprised by how normal they looked. He had expected primitive clothing and crude equipment. Instead, they wore perfectly fitted uniforms that looked more advanced than anything he had seen. General Minho Park was a large man with broad shoulders. His uniform was simple but elegant. Admiral Yuna Lee was smaller but carried herself with obvious authority. Her eyes were cold and seemed to see everything. "Your ship is impressive," Do-Yun said, looking around the bridge. "Though I notice your scanner technology is several generations behind what we expected." This comment made Vorix angry. How dare these primitives criticize Empire technology? But before he could respond, his navigation officer called out, "Admiral, we have arrived at Nexus Prime." Through the viewing screen, Vorix could see the Empire's capital world. Nexus Prime was the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy. Hundreds of battleships orbited the world. Massive space stations bristled with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. "Follow me," Vorix told the humans. "The High Council is waiting." They traveled by shuttle to the council chamber, an enormous building that floated in space above Nexus Prime. The chamber itself was large enough to hold a small city. In the center sat 7 thrones, each designed for a different species that ruled the Empire. The High Council members looked down at the 3 humans. Vorix could see amusement in their eyes. These beings had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They had seen countless species try to challenge their power. All had failed. Counselor Threx was the first to speak. He was a massive creature with thick armor plating and 6 legs. So, these are the humans we have heard about. You look even weaker than our report suggested. Do-Yun walked to the center of the chamber. His footsteps echoed in the vast space. Honored members of the High Council, I bring greetings from the people of Earth and all human worlds. Human worlds? Counselor Yila laughed. She was tall and thin with purple skin. Our records show humans exist only on Earth. You have no other worlds. Your records are incomplete, Do-Yun said simply. Counselor Vorth leaned forward on his throne. He was ancient, even by galactic standards. His species had been the first to join the Empire. State your business, human. We have more important matters to discuss. Do-Yun reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. He placed it on the floor, and it projected a hologram showing official Empire seals and documentation. By the authority granted to us by the Galactic War Crimes Convention, which your Empire signed, we hereby deliver this final warning. Do-Yun's voice carried throughout the chamber. All Imperial forces must withdraw from human space within 72 standard hours. The council chamber fell silent. Then Counselor Threx began to laugh. Soon, all 7 council members were laughing. Did this creature just give us an ultimatum? Threx asked between laughs. Do-Yun waited for the laughter to stop. If Imperial forces do not withdraw from human space within the specified time, humanity will take action to ensure our security. This action will result in the complete removal of the Galactic Empire as a threat to any species. The laughter stopped immediately. Counselor Vorth stood up from his throne. His voice was filled with anger. You dare threaten the Empire! We rule 40,000 worlds. Our fleets number in the millions. We have weapons that can destroy stars. General Minho Park stepped forward. We are aware of your capabilities. We have been watching your empire for a very long time. Watching? Counselor Yila's voice was sharp. How could primitives like you watch us? Admiral Yuna Lee spoke for the first time. Her voice was quiet, but somehow filled the entire chamber. Primitives do not travel between stars in ships that your best sensors cannot properly scan. Primitives do not appear next to your flagship without being detected. Vorex felt a chill run through his body. He remembered how the human ship had appeared on his sensors. For just a moment he had wondered how they had done it. Do-Yun activated his device again. New images appeared showing detailed maps of Empire military positions, weapon specifications, and classified battle plans. We know the location of every Imperial fleet, Do-Yun said. We know your weapons, your defenses, your secret research, projects. We know about the prison worlds where you keep enslaved populations. We know about the weapons you are building to destroy inhabited planets. Counselor Threx recovered from his shock first. Even if you have spies in our empire, you are still just humans. Your entire species could not defeat a single Imperial battle group. Do-Yun nodded. That would be true, if we were the species you think we are. The 3 humans looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them. 72 hours, Yuna said. Not 73, not 71, exactly 72. And if we refuse? Counselor Vorth asked. Do-Yun's smile returned. Then you will learn why humanity chose to remain hidden for so long. And you will understand why we are giving you this warning instead of simply acting. The 3 humans turned and walked toward the exit. Their footsteps echoed in the silent chamber. This is not a negotiation, Do-Yun called back without turning around. This is a courtesy notice. Use these 72 hours wisely. After they left, the council chamber remained silent for a long time. Finally, Counselor Threx spoke. Destroy them. But Vorex continued to think about the human ship that had appeared next to his flagship without warning. Something was very wrong with this situation. Fleet Admiral Thex stood on the bridge of his flagship Eternal Conquest and watched his fleet prepare for battle. 200 of the Empire's most powerful warships hung in space around him. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a planet. Together, they formed the largest battle group the Empire had assembled in over a century. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, all ships are ready for hyperspace jump to the Sol system. Thex nodded. The High Council had given him clear orders. These upstart humans needed to learn their place in the galaxy. Their ridiculous ultimatum would be answered with overwhelming force. After the Empire finished with Earth, no other species would dare challenge Imperial authority. "Begin the jump," Thex ordered. The 200 ships vanished from normal space. They traveled through the twisted dimensions of hyperspace toward the small yellow star where humanity claimed to have originated. Intelligence reports said Earth had no real defenses, a few primitive orbital stations and some basic spacecraft that could barely leave their home system. Thex had fought in dozens of campaigns across the galaxy. He had conquered entire civilizations that had much better technology than these humans. This would be the easiest victory of his career. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Jupiter, the large gas planet that orbited at the edge of the human home system. Thex expected to see a panicked defense fleet rushing to meet them. Instead, his sensors detected only one ship. "Sir," the sensor operator called out, "we have a single contact. It appears to be a human vessel." On the main screen, Thex could see a sleek gray ship that was much smaller than even his smallest escort vessel. It hung motionless in space between his fleet and the inner planets of the system. "That is their entire defense?" Thex laughed. "One ship?" The communications officer looked up from his station. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the human vessel." "Put it on screen," Thex ordered. "I want to see the fear in their eyes." The image changed to show the bridge of the human ship. A woman in a simple military uniform sat in the captain's chair. She looked calm and relaxed, as if she faced enemy fleets every day. Behind her, Thex could see other humans working at their stations with no sign of panic or worry. "I am Captain Jiwon Choi of the Terran Defense Force destroyer Soul's Pride," the woman said. "You are trespassing in human space. You have 60 seconds to reverse course and leave this system." Thex could not believe what he was hearing. This single human ship was ordering his entire fleet to retreat? The arrogance was incredible. "Human," Thex said, putting as much authority as possible into his voice. "I am Fleet Admiral Thex of the Galactic Empire. You are facing 200 Imperial warships. Surrender immediately, and your death will be quick." Captain Jiwon looked at something off-screen, then back at Thex. 50 seconds. "You must be insane," Thex said. "My flagship alone could vaporize your pathetic ship with a single shot." 40 seconds, Jiwon said. Her voice never changed. She might have been reading a weather report. Thex turned to his weapons officer. "Target that ship. Prepare the main cannon." The weapons officer worked at his controls. "Sir, the planet killer cannon is charged and ready to fire." Thex looked back at the human captain. She sat perfectly still in her chair, showing no emotion at all. Either she was completely insane, or she knew something he did not. 20 seconds. Jiwon announced. "Fire!" Thex ordered. The Eternal Conquest fired its most powerful weapon. The massive energy beam was designed to crack the crust of planets. It could punch through any known armor or shielding. The beam struck the small human ship directly. Nothing happened. The energy beam hit the hull of Soul's Pride and simply disappeared. There was no explosion, no damage, no effect at all. The human ship continued to float in space as if nothing had occurred. Thex stared at his tactical display. "That is impossible. Nothing can absorb that much energy." "Time is up," Captain Jiwon said from the screen. "Thank you for making your intentions clear. All ships initiate Protocol 7. "All ships?" Thex looked around his bridge. "There is only one human ship." But as he watched his sensors, something impossible began to happen. The single human ship started to fade from normal space. Its hull became transparent, then disappeared. "Completely!" "Sir," the sensor operator called out in a panicked voice. "The human ship is gone. But I am reading 200 new contacts." "What do you mean 200 contacts?" Thex demanded. "Admiral, there is now one human ship at the exact position of each vessel in our fleet." Thex looked at his tactical display and felt ice form in his stomach. The screen showed 200 red dots, each one sitting directly on top of one of his ships. Somehow, the single human destroyer had multiplied itself. There was now one copy of Soul's Pride next to every ship in his fleet. "How is this possible?" Thex whispered. Captain Jiwon's voice came from every communication channel at once. "Protocol 7 is our standard response to hostile fleets. Each of your ships now has a dedicated defense unit assigned to it. Through his view screen, Thex could see one of the human ships floating just a few kilometers away from his flagship. It looked exactly like the original. Every detail was perfect. "You cannot be in 200 places at once," Thex said. "We are not in 200 places," Jiwan replied. "We are in one place that happens to exist in 200 different locations. Your understanding of space and time is limited." Thex tried to make sense of what she was saying, but failed. This was clearly some kind of advanced technology that the Empire had never encountered. "All ships," Thex broadcast to his fleet. "Open fire on the human vessels. Destroy them all." His 200 warships began firing their weapons at the human ships next to them. Massive energy beams and plasma bolts struck the copies of Soul's Pride from every direction. Again, nothing happened. The weapons fire simply vanished when it touched the human ships. It was as if the attacks were being absorbed by empty space itself. "Your weapons operate by manipulating matter and energy," Captain Jiwan explained in a patient voice. "Our defensive systems operate at a more fundamental level. We simply decline to acknowledge your attacks." "That makes no sense," Thex said. "It does not need to make sense to you," Jiwan replied. "Reality is much stranger than your science believes." The hull of each human ship began to glow with a soft white light. The glow grew brighter and brighter until Thex had to shield his eyes from the glare. "Final warning," Jiwan announced. "Leave this system now or face the consequences." "Never!" Thex shouted. "The Empire does not retreat from primitives." "As you wish," Jiwan said. Her voice sounded sad. "All units, fire." Each copy of Soul's Pride fired a single beam of light. The beams were thin and bright, almost too bright to look at. They struck Thex's ships for less than 1 second. When the light faded, the human ships were alone in space. Thex looked around his bridge in confusion. A moment ago, he had been surrounded by his fleet. Now he saw only empty space and distant stars. "Sensor report," he ordered. The sensor operator stared at his instruments with wide eyes. "Sir, I am reading no other Imperial ships. The entire fleet is gone." "Gone where? Did they jump to hyperspace?" "No, sir. They are just gone. There is no debris, no energy signatures, no trace that they were ever here." Thex ran to different stations on his bridge, checking the readings himself. His ships had not been destroyed. They had not exploded or been vaporized. They had simply stopped existing. 200 of the Empire's most powerful warships had been erased from reality in less than 1 second. 50,000 Imperial soldiers had vanished without a trace. Captain Jiwan appeared on his main screen again. "Admiral Thex, you are alive because we require a witness. Return to your Empire. Tell them what you have seen here." "What did you do to my ships?" Thex asked in a shaking voice. "We removed them from this reality," Jiwan said simply. "They no longer exist in this universe. Your crew members are unharmed, but they are somewhere else now." "That is impossible." "Impossible is a word used by species who do not understand the true nature of reality," Jiwan replied. "You should leave now. Our patience is not unlimited." Thex looked around his empty bridge. His proud fleet was gone. His dreams of easy victory had become a nightmare beyond comprehension. "How many ships like yours does humanity have?" he asked. Captain Jiwan smiled for the first time. It was not a pleasant smile. "Admiral, you just witnessed the capabilities of one outdated destroyer from our training fleet. This ship is over 100 years old. We use it to teach new cadets basic combat operations." Thex felt his knees grow weak. "You have 47 hours remaining," Jiwan said. "Use them wisely." The human ship faded from view again, leaving Thex alone with the impossible task of reporting his failure to the High Council. The emergency council chamber on Nexus Prime was filled with panic. Never in the history of the Galactic Empire had an entire battle fleet simply vanished. The 7 council members sat in their thrones, watching recordings of the impossible, battle over and over again. "Show it again," demanded Councillor Threx. His massive armored body shook with rage and fear. On the central display, they watched Fleet Admiral Thex's flagship fire its planet-killer weapon at the small human ship. They watched the energy beam disappear harmlessly against the human hull. They watched one human ship become 200 ships. They watched 200 Imperial warships cease to exist in a flash of light. "This has to be some kind of trick," said Counselor Yila. Her purple skin had turned pale. "No species has technology like this." Counselor Vorth, the eldest member of the council, spoke in a tired voice. "We need answers. Bring me our best scientists. Bring me everyone who has studied human space." "There is one human in our territory," reported General Crost, the council's military advisor, Dr. Sunho Bay. "He was studying at the Imperial Science Academy when first contact was made with Earth. He has been working on theoretical physics at Research Station Omega." "Bring him here immediately," Vorth ordered. 6 hours later, Dr. Sunho Bay stood in the center of the council chamber. He was a young man with nervous eyes and simple clothing. He looked terrified to be standing before the most powerful beings in the galaxy. "Dr. Bay," Counselor Vorth began, "you are human. You have been living in Imperial space for 3 years. Tell us about your people." Sunho shifted uncomfortably. "Honored counselors, I am just a scientist. I study quantum mechanics and space-time theory. I do not know much about military matters." "Show him the recording," Threx ordered. The display activated, showing the destruction of the Imperial fleet. Sunho watched with growing horror as his own species demonstrated impossible power. When the recording ended, his face was completely white. That cannot be real," Sunho whispered. "It is very real," Yila said sharply. 200 of our best ships are gone. 50,000 Imperial soldiers have vanished. How did your primitive people do this?" Sunho stared at the frozen image on the screen. The human ship's soul's pride floated peacefully in space, looking small and harmless. "We are not primitive," Sunho said in a quiet voice. "What did you say?" Vorth leaned forward on his throne. Sunho looked up at the council members. His nervousness was gone, replaced by something that looked like sadness. "We were never primitive," he said more clearly. "We were hiding." The council chamber fell silent. General Crost stepped forward. "Explain what you mean by hiding." Sunho took a deep breath. "When I was a child on Earth, I thought we were alone in the galaxy. I thought humans had just invented faster-than-light travel. I thought we were a young species taking our first steps into space." He paused, looking at each council member in turn. "I was wrong about everything." "Continue," Vorth commanded. "When I came to study in Imperial space, I learned about your technology. I learned about your weapons and your ships. I realized something terrible." Sunho's voice grew stronger. "Your most advanced science is centuries behind what we teach to children in elementary school." Counselor Threx stood up from his throne. "You dare insult Imperial science?" "I am not insulting it," Sunho replied. "I am trying to make you understand. The humans you observed on Earth were volunteers. They chose to live simple lives to maintain the deception. The real human civilization has been growing in secret for thousands of years." The council members looked at each other with growing alarm. "Where?" Yila demanded. "Our scouts have surveyed every system near Earth. We found no other human worlds." Sunho smiled sadly. "You found exactly what we wanted you to find. Do you really think a species capable of erasing matter from reality would have trouble hiding? A few planets?" General Crost activated a holographic display showing a map of local space. "Show us where these hidden human worlds are located." "I cannot," Sunho said. "I do not know their locations. Only a few humans are told the truth about our real civilization. Most of us live normal lives on Earth, never knowing that we are part of a deception." "But you know now," Vorth said. "Yes, because I have seen what your ships cannot do." Sunho pointed at the frozen image of the human destroyer. That ship manipulated quantum foam. It edited the basic structure of space-time. To achieve that level of technology, a civilization must understand reality at the deepest possible level. Counselor Yila's voice was sharp with fear. "What exactly are you saying?" "I am saying that while your empire spent thousands of years conquering primitive species, humanity spent that time solving the fundamental mysteries of existence." Sunho walked closer to the thrones. "We learned how to rewrite the laws of physics. We learned how to create and destroy matter at will. We learned how to exist in multiple dimensions at the same time." "That is impossible," Threx said, but his voice lacked conviction. Everything you just witnessed was impossible, Sunho replied. Yet it happened. Admiral Vorix, who had been quietly observing from the side of the chamber, stepped forward. Dr. Bay, I commanded the ship that first encountered the human ambassadors. Their vessel appeared next to my flagship without warning. Our best sensors could not detect it until it chose to be seen. Sunho nodded. Stealth technology based on quantum manipulation. Quite basic, really. Basic? Vorix felt sick. The ship that destroyed your fleet was much more sophisticated, Sunho continued. It existed in a quantum superposition, allowing it to be in multiple locations simultaneously. When it fired those light beams, it was using controlled antimatter reactions. At the subatomic level. Antimatter? General Cross looked confused. We have antimatter weapons. They create explosions. Your antimatter weapons are crude, Sunho explained. You smash matter and antimatter together and hope for the best. The human ship used antimatter to selectively delete specific quantum states. It did not destroy your ships. It convinced reality that those ships had never existed. The council chamber was completely silent. The implications of what Sunho was saying were too terrible to fully comprehend. Counselor Vorth spoke in a hoarse whisper. How long has humanity possessed this technology? Do not know, Sunho admitted. But based on what I have learned during my studies here, I believe humanity achieved faster-than-light travel at least 2,000 years ago. Possibly much longer. 2,000 years? Yila's voice cracked. They have been watching us for 2,000 years? Longer, Sunho said. They have been watching your empire grow and conquer. They have been studying your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. They know everything about you. Admiral Vorix remembered the detailed Imperial intelligence that the human ambassador had displayed. Battle plans, weapon specifications, secret research projects. Information that should have been impossible for outsiders to obtain. Why did they wait so long to reveal themselves? Vorix asked. Sunho looked sad again. Because they hoped you would become better than you are. They hoped your empire would learn to cooperate instead of conquer. They hoped you would become a civilization worth preserving. And now? Vorth asked. Now they have decided that hope was misplaced, Sunho replied. Now they are giving you one final chance to prove them wrong. General Crost pulled up tactical displays showing the Empire's remaining military forces. How many ships do the humans have? How many worlds? How large is their real military? I do not know, Sunho said. But I can tell you this. The ship that destroyed your fleet was described as an outdated training vessel. 100 years old, used to teach basic combat to new students. The council members stared at him in horror. If that is what they use to train beginners, Sunho continued, imagine what their actual military forces can do. Counselor Threx sat down heavily in his throne. What do you recommend, Dr. Bay? Sunho looked at each council member one final time. I recommend you seriously consider their ultimatum. Humanity could have conquered this entire galaxy thousands of years ago. Instead, they chose to remain hidden and watch. They chose to give you this warning instead of simply acting. He paused, then added quietly, that level of restraint from beings with godlike power should terrify you more than their weapons do. The emergency council session continued for 18 more hours, but everyone in the chamber already knew the truth. The Galactic Empire was not facing a rebellion or an uprising. They were facing judgment from a species that had transcended their understanding of reality itself, and that species was still offering them mercy. With only 12 hours remaining before humanity's deadline, the Galactic Empire made its most desperate decision. Deep in the Korthax system, the massive Death Moon began to move for the first time in 300 years. The Death Moon was the Empire's ultimate weapon. It was the size of a small planet, with a hollow core containing the most powerful weapon ever built. The station could destroy entire star systems. Its main cannon could crack planets in half or make stars go supernova. 50 million Imperial soldiers lived and worked inside its metal shell. Grand Admiral Zethan commanded the Death Moon from the central control room. He was ancient, even by galactic standards, and had overseen the construction of the station centuries ago. If anyone could defeat these impossible humans, it would be him. Set course for the edge of human space, Zethan ordered. Maximum speed. The Death Moon's massive engines ignited, pushing the artificial world through space faster than most battleships could travel. Within 6 hours, it had reached the border of the Sol system. Admiral, the sensor operator reported, we are detecting a single small vessel at the edge of human territory. Zethan looked at the main display. A tiny ship floated in space ahead of them. It was even smaller than the destroyer that had humiliated Fleet Admiral Thax. This vessel looked more like a research ship than a warship. One ship? Zethan laughed. They send one tiny ship to face the Death Moon? The communications officer spoke up. Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the human vessel. Put it on screen, Zethan ordered. The display showed a pleasant-looking woman sitting in what appeared to be a laboratory. Behind her, Zethan could see scientific equipment and what looked like plant samples. She wore a simple white coat and had kind eyes. Hello, the woman said with a friendly smile. I am Dr. Haeun Song of the research vessel Busan Explorer. I study alien plant life and ecosystem development. Zethan was confused. This was their defender. A scientist who studied plants? Human, Zethan said in his most commanding voice. I am Grand Admiral Zethan of the Imperial Death Moon. You are facing the most powerful weapon in galactic history. Flee now, or be destroyed. Dr. Haeun looked genuinely sad. Oh dear, I was hoping you would choose to withdraw peacefully. Violence is so unnecessary. You have 30 seconds to move your ship, Zethan announced. Then we will demonstrate why. This station is called the Death Moon. I understand you feel you must do this, Haeun said gently. But I really must ask you to reconsider. What you are planning will not end well for you. Zethan turned to his weapons officer. Charge the core breaker cannon. Prepare to fire. Throughout the Death Moon, massive machinery began to activate. The station's main weapon drew power from a captured black hole at its center. When fully charged, it could destroy anything in the known universe. Sir, the weapons officer reported. Core breaker, cannon is at 50% charge. Dr. Haeun sighed sadly on the screen. I really hoped you would choose wisdom. Computer, please demonstrate why we call this reality sandbox mode. Zethan frowned. What did she just say? The sensor operator stared at his instruments in confusion. Admiral, I am not detecting any weapons fire from the human ship. No energy buildup, no targeting systems active. They are not doing anything. Core breaker cannon at 75% charge, the weapons officer announced. That was when the first report came in from the outer hull sections. Admiral. A panicked voice came over the communication system. Section 12 is reporting impossible readings. The hull plating is changing. Changing how? Zethan demanded. Sir, the metal is turning into flowers. Zethan thought he had misheard. Repeat that report. The outer hull armor is becoming flowers, sir. Real flowers. They are growing out of the metal. More reports began flooding in from across the massive station. Section 18 reporting that weapons batteries are turning into butterflies. Engineering Deck 7 says the corridor walls are now made of grass. The main reactor is becoming some kind of light show. Zethan ran to the nearest window and looked outside. What he saw made no sense. The Death Moon's dark metal hull was transforming into a garden. Flowers of every color bloomed across the station's surface. Trees grew from weapon emplacements. Butterflies made of pure energy fluttered through space where missile launchers used to be. What is happening? Zethan shouted. Dr. Haeun's voice came from every speaker on the station. We have mastered creation and deletion at the quantum level. To us, matter and energy are just suggestions. We can rewrite the fundamental structure of reality in localized areas. The transformation continued to spread throughout the Death Moon. Weapons became works of art. Armor plating turned into peaceful meadows. The fusion reactors that powered the station's weapons converted into harmless displays of colored light that sparkled like stars. This is impossible, Zethan whispered, watching his ultimate weapon become a floating garden. Impossible is a limitation of understanding, Dr. Haeun replied gently. We could rewrite the fundamental constants of physics in this region of space. We could make gravity push instead of pull. We could turn dark matter into music or convert electromagnetic radiation into poetry. Zethan looked around his control room. The metal walls were becoming covered with soft moss. His command chair was now made of living wood. Flowers bloomed from the control panels, though somehow all the equipment continued to function perfectly. Crew, Zethan said suddenly. What have you done to my crew? They are completely unharmed, Dr. Hayon assured him. Look outside. Through the transformed windows, Zethan could see his soldiers. They were standing in meadows where their battle stations used to be. They were breathing air that somehow existed in the vacuum of space. Many of them were staring in wonder at the impossible beauty surrounding them. How are they breathing? Zethan asked. We have locally modified the nature of space itself, Dr. Hayon explained. In the areas around your crew members, vacuum now has the properties of breathable atmosphere. We have also adjusted the local gravitational field so they can walk normally on what used to be your outer hull. A young Imperial soldier appeared on one of Zethan's screens. The soldier was standing in a field of blue flowers, with alien butterflies, landing on his shoulders. Admiral, the soldier said in an amazed voice. Sir, this is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. The human is right. Violence is unnecessary when you can create wonders like this. More screens activated, showing other crew members walking through gardens that had once been weapons bays. They were laughing and playing with creatures made of light. Many were crying tears of joy. You have turned my battle station into a paradise, Zethan said. I have given your soldiers a glimpse of what the galaxy could become, Dr. Hayon replied. This is what humanity learned to do during the thousands of years we spent studying reality instead of conquering our neighbors. Zethan sat down in his living wood chair. A small flower bloomed on his control panel, and he found himself reaching out to touch its soft petals. The Empire will send more weapons, he said quietly. Will they? Dr. Hayon asked. You came here with the most powerful weapon your civilization has ever built. We turned it into a garden using a single research ship operated by one scientist. Do you really think your leaders will want to send more fleets after they learn what happened here? Zethan looked around his transformed command center. Everything was still functional, but it was now more beautiful than anything he had ever imagined. The air smelled like spring rain. The walls glowed with gentle bioluminescence. What do you want from us? He asked. We want you to choose cooperation over conquest, Dr. Hayon said. We want you to transform your empire into something that builds instead of destroys. We want you to become worthy of the wonders we can share with you. She paused, and her voice became more serious. We could have destroyed your Death Moon and everyone on it. Instead, we chose to show you beauty. We chose to demonstrate creation instead of destruction. This is the difference between humanity and your empire. And if we refuse to change? Zethan asked. Dr. Hayon's expression became sad. Then we will stop being gentle. 6 hours remain in your ultimatum. Please do not force us to show you what we can accomplish when we are trying to solve a problem instead of avoiding one. The transmission ended, leaving Zethan alone in his garden command center. Around him, 50 million Imperial soldiers walked through impossible beauty, many of them already questioning everything they had believed about power and war. For the first time in his long military career, Grand Admiral Zethan began to understand that there were forces in the universe far greater than any weapon. And those forces had just offered his empire a choice between transformation and irrelevance. 1 hour remained before humanity's deadline expired. Emperor Valdris sat alone in his private chamber, staring at reports that described the impossible. Every military force he had sent against the humans had been defeated or transformed. His greatest weapons had become gardens. His most feared generals now sent messages praising the beauty of flowers. The final report on his desk came from Grand Admiral Zethan. The Death Moon was now a floating paradise where Imperial soldiers lived in harmony with creatures made of light. Zethan himself had requested permission to study human philosophy instead of military tactics. Emperor Valdris had ruled the galaxy for 200 years. He had never faced a problem that could not be solved with superior firepower. Now he faced beings who treated his strongest weapons like toys and responded to violence with acts of creation. A soft chime indicated an incoming communication. Valdris activated his personal display, and the 3 human representatives appeared before him. Ambassador Do-hyun Kim stood in the center, with General Minho Park and Admiral Yoon Lee flanking him. Emperor Valdris, Do-hyun said with a respectful bow. We appreciate you taking this meeting. What choice do I have? Valdris replied, bitterly. You have made it clear that resistance is futile. Resistance is always possible, Minho corrected. What we have made clear is that resistance is pointless. Valdris leaned forward in his throne. I must know. How did we never detect your true capabilities? Our intelligence services are the best in the galaxy. Because we are very, very good at war, Minho answered. And the first rule of warfare is never let your enemy know your true strength until it is too late for them to respond. Yuna stepped forward. We could have conquered this galaxy 10,000 years ago. We chose to remain hidden because we hoped you would learn to be better than conquerors. We hoped the Empire would evolve into something worth preserving. And now? Valdris asked. Now we see that hope was misplaced, Do-hyun said sadly. Your Empire has had thousands of years to choose cooperation over domination. Instead, you have enslaved entire species and destroyed countless worlds. You have proven that you will not change voluntarily. Valdris felt anger rising in his chest. We brought order to the galaxy. Before the Empire, these worlds were plagued by endless wars. You brought order through fear and violence, Yuna replied. That is not true peace. It is only oppression with a prettier name. We gave primitive species the gift of imperial technology and culture, Valdris argued. You gave them slavery and called it civilization, Minho said coldly. We have been watching your empire for a very long time. We know about the prison worlds. We know about the forced labor camps. We know about the species you have driven to extinction for the crime of resisting conquest. Valdris looked away. There was no point in denying what they clearly already knew. What do you want from us? He asked quietly. Do-hyun activated a holographic display showing a document. We want you to sign this charter. It will transform the Galactic Empire into the Galactic Federation. Every species will have equal representation. Slavery will be abolished immediately. All prison worlds will be converted to rehabilitation centers. And if I refuse, then we will solve the problem differently, Yuna said. We will not destroy you because destruction is wasteful and creates suffering. Instead, we will relocate you. Valdris frowned. Relocate us where? We will create a small pocket dimension, Do-hyun explained. All Imperial worlds will be moved. There, along with your fleets and your people. You can continue your empire in that space for as long as you wish. You will have each other to conquer for eternity. A prison, Valdris said. A playground, Minho corrected. You will be free to rule and conquer to your heart's content. The only difference is that you will not be able to harm anyone who does not choose to participate in your games. How many others will you move to this pocket dimension? Valdris asked. Only those who choose to continue following the Imperial way, Do-hyun replied. We estimate that perhaps 10% of your current population will choose to go with you. The rest will be happy to join the new Federation. Valdris considered this. His empire included thousands of species that had been conquered and enslaved. Many of them would indeed choose freedom over Imperial rule. You would break apart everything we have built, he said. We would free everything you have enslaved, Yuna replied. Show me your terms again, Valdris said after a long pause. Do-hyun expanded the holographic display. The charter was detailed and comprehensive. It established a council where every species would have equal representation regardless of their technological level or military power. It banned slavery in all forms. It required the sharing of technology and resources to help primitive worlds develop peacefully. You would give advanced technology to every species in the galaxy? Valdris asked. Not our most advanced technology, Do-hyun admitted, but enough to ensure that no species lives in poverty or ignorance. Enough to allow them to explore the stars and develop their own cultures without fear of conquest. And if some species choose to use this technology for war, then they will face the same choice you face now, Minho said simply. Valdris read through the document more carefully. The terms were harsh but fair. The empire would be dismantled, but its people would not be punished. Those who chose cooperation would be welcomed into the new federation. Those who preferred conquest would be given their own space to play in. This federation, Valdris said. Who would lead it? A council of representatives from every member species, Do-hyun replied. Humanity would have one vote, the same as everyone. Else? You would not rule directly? We have no interest in ruling, Yuna said. We are more interested in ensuring that no one rules over others against their will. Valdris thought about his options. He could refuse to sign and be relocated to a pocket dimension with only his most loyal followers. He could sign the charter and transform his empire into something completely different, or he could continue fighting and face whatever else these impossible humans might do. If I sign this document, Valdris said slowly, what guarantee do I have that you will honor its terms? The same guarantee you had that we would honor our 72-hour deadline, Minho replied. Our word. And if the Federation fails? If the member species fall into war without Imperial guidance? Then they will learn from their mistakes and grow stronger, Do-hyun said. That is how civilizations mature. Through experience, not through domination. Valdris stood up from his throne and walked to the large window that showed the capital city of Nexus Prime. Millions of beings from hundreds of species lived and worked in the city below. Most of them had been conquered by the Empire at some point in history. How long do I have to decide? He asked. 15 minutes, Yuna said, checking a device on her wrist. 15 minutes to decide the fate of the galaxy? You have had thousands of years to make this choice voluntarily, Do-hyun pointed out. We are simply providing a deadline to encourage a decision. Emperor Valdris returned to his throne and looked at the three humans who held the power to reshape reality itself. They could have simply taken control of the galaxy by force. Instead, they were offering him a choice. If I sign this charter, he said, I cease to be an emperor. I become just another representative in your federation. You become a leader who serves his people instead of ruling them, Do-hyun corrected. Valdris picked up the holographic stylus that would make his signature legally binding across the galaxy. He held it for a long moment, thinking about everything he would be giving up. Then he thought about the Death Moon, transformed into a garden where his soldiers played with creatures of light. He thought about the impossible demonstrations of human power and the restraint they had shown in using it. You could have forced this change at any time, he said. Why give us the choice? Because we believe in growth, Do-hyun replied. We believe in the possibility that even the worst tyrants can learn to be better. We believe that beings who choose to change are stronger than beings who are forced to change. Emperor Valdris looked at his reflection in the holographic document. For 200 years, he had seen himself as the rightful ruler of the galaxy. Now he had the chance to become something different. If I do this, he said, will you help us? Will you share your knowledge to make the Federation work? We will. Share what we can, Yuna promised. But the Federation must succeed or fail based on the choices of its members. We will not rule from the shadows. Valdris signed the document with a steady hand. Then let us see if this galaxy can learn to govern itself, he said. The Galactic Empire died with the stroke of a pen. The Galactic Federation was born in the same instant, and somewhere in hidden corners of the galaxy, humanity continued to watch and wait, ready to step in only if the galaxy forgot the lessons it had learned about the true meaning of power.